The speculative theories of Western Orientalists of the religious origin of the Yezidis in devil worship, the sacred books and traditions of the Yezidis by Isya Joseph. Thus far, we have been dealing with different theories regarding the origin of the Yezidis, held in the East, the myth of the devil worshippers themselves, the Christian tradition. Now we turn our attention to the West, which has also expressed itself on this subject. The degree of interest shown in this particular case, however, differs with different nationalities. The English-speaking scholars come first, next come the French, then the Russians, and finally the Italians. The German scholars seem to be interested mainly in certain words and festive events, and in the discussion of these they go so far in their unbounded speculation that one cannot tell whether the people they deal with are the Yezidis in question, Assyrians, Babylonians, Canaanites, Greeks, Romans, or Jews. The German writers do not seem to be interested so much in the problem of the origin of this people as a sect, unless they regard the question as settled on the ground of the Yezidis' own statement that they are the descendants of Yazid bin Muawiyah. Well, perhaps a branch of them. To tell the truth, the rise of the interest in the inquiry about the founder of this sect on a scientific basis is due without question to the scholarship of the West, and any solution of the problem, and it does not matter who does the work, in the last analysis must be accredited to the influences emanating from these scholars, and these scholars only. Nevertheless, modern Orientalists have been far from approaching the solution of the question. This may be due in part to the extreme interest which they have taken in the matter, an interest which led them to accept the phenomena without critical examination, but the inductive study of their respective writings tends to show that this is due to their method of procedure rather than to anything else. They have employed the philosophical and not the historical method, and I do not mean to deny the value of such a course of investigation in questions pertaining to religion. Well, certainly the function perhaps is more important than the evidence that's clearly left behind. Certainly most of the evidence probably is not so, this has to be this, Most religions are like that, even Christianity with all the statues and stuff. How are we supposed to know it from other cults? People thought for the longest time, all these crosses and stuff, Christianity must have spread. It's like, nope. But what I do mean to say is that the method of the scholars in question is almost purely speculative, and they do not seem to appeal to the historical facts in support of their assumptions. The inevitable consequence has been, therefore, that in their theories there exists an uncertainty and indefiniteness that puzzles the student of history, because they don't want certain things to be pre-Christian. They want Christianity to be original in certain things, which it clearly has been proven not to be. But this is over 100 years ago, so the vested interest is fading to a degree. Well, at least other points of view are being able to be made public. Another fact which the inductive study of the views of the Western scholars reveals is that their theories are nothing more nor less than the expression of the Yezidis' tradition in terms of modern scholarship, without, however, the showing of reasons for so doing. This will be proved presently, when we shall examine the respective writings. Western Orientalists are divided into 3 schools of opinion on the question of the religious origin of the Yezidis. They are those who hold that the sect takes its rise from Yazid bin Muawiyah. This view is advocated by a modern writer who says the Arabs who accepted Muhammad called those who did not al-Jahalin, the ignorant ones. Among the latter was Yazid bin Muawiyah, who refused to accompany Muawiyah, his father, as an attendant upon his person. Many of the ignorant ones rallied around Yazid, and he became the nucleus of the sect that appropriated his name. The Yezidis possess a genealogical tree by means of which they trace their origins back to him. Now, for the ground of this assertion, the writer does not give. He is entirely silent as to the source of his information. It is evident, therefore, that he is regarding the superstitious theory of the Yezidis as a fact without making any reflection upon it. He seems also to be confusing this Yazid with his uncle of the same name, who, with Muawiyah, his brother, came in company with their father Abu Sufyan to Muhammad to receive presents from the Prophet. But the Arab historians, well, not all of them are Arabs, some of them are from Slavic, some of the more famous ones are Slavic, actually, so, tell us that not only Abu Sufyan and each of his 2 sons received 100 camels, but they were each presented with 40 ounces of silver. Then too many scholars deny that the name Yezidis is the original appellation. Some assert it was put upon them by al-Muslimin as a term of reproach. You know, those who were particular Shia, for example. Others maintain that the sect adopted the name Yazid, son of Muawiyah, to secure toleration at the hands of al-Muslimin. There's actual more evidence that has been brought forward to this effect, but the scholar quoted may entertain the view of those who say that the Yezidis are really the followers of Ibn Muawiyah, and that they deny it for fear of persecution on the part of the Shiites. These latter hate Yazid because he murdered Ali's son, Hussein, who is regarded by them as their true imam, spiritual leader. This inference is founded on the theory that al-Muslimin from Persia consider the people in question as descendants of the Caliph whose name is odious to them. But it is not certain that the followers of Ali entertain such a view regarding the origin of the Yezidis, and if they do, they have no historical facts to justify them in their opinion. Their hatred of the sect can be better explained on the basis of the relation of the devil worshippers to Yazid bin Unaysa, for he was one of those who most bitterly hated Ali. Furthermore, the theory of this school is naturalized by the fact that none of the historians mentions that the son of the first caliph in the Umayyad dynasty is the founder of any heretical sect. On the contrary, they all agree that he was not only a Muslim, but a successor of the Prophet, being the second caliph in the Umayyad dynasty. Not one of the rightly guided ones, by the way, according to the Sunni way of phrasing it. Ibn Halakan mentions his name 2 or 3 times, and says that his works were collected. He says nothing, however, as to his founding any religious schism. There is still another school among Western Orientalists. I mean those who hold that the religion of the devil worshippers is of Persian origin. They are of 2 wings, those who take their method of procedure from the name Yazid or Yazd. They argue that this term in Persian, Yazd, Pahlavi, Yazdan, Avesta, Yazata, Yazdan, so worthy of worship, particular type of holy being, the jinn, good spirit, but in their way of thinking, they're talking about a good spirit. And Ahriman is not really mentioned off to the side, but in some ways, Malik Taus is given the position of Ahriman, but not quite. There's, they don't want to sound like they're the evil ones or something, so they kind of don't mention that in their modern groups. But Shaitan in Avestan clearly refers to Ahriman. Anyways, hence the name Yazid, according to them, indicates the people that believe in this good entity. To the objection that the Yezidis worship the evil spirit, the answer is made that Yazid Ferfer is the name of the attendant of the evil spirit among the Parsis. Ferfer from the Gohtaya. Which were, that's sort of a Greek. The Goetia, give it a more modern pronunciation. Others believe that the word Yazid signifies God. Well, Yazdan, worship-worthy. If you're going to worship something, you should probably consider it worship-worthy, right? It indicates the plural that the observers of superstitious doctrines, as may be seen by the idol Yazid, which the bishop of Nagam overthrew, others say that in the tradition of these people, Yazid must have been an abbreviated form of Azda Kuda, that is, created of God. Closer to the post-Milton idea of Lucifer, really. But Lucifer doesn't get the term, doesn't get thought of as demon. I mean, even Jesus is called Lucifer, so. In support of this theory, it is claimed that in reality, the Yezidis worship God and not the devil, while plenty of Satanists consider the devil to be the true God. And the way that the Christians and stuff talk about, you can understand why some people say, no, there's too much problem with that. The other one should be the one that we're going to worship if we're going to worship anything. It is thought by many, too, that the Yezidis derive their name from Yazd, or Yazid, a name of a town in central Persia, of which the Parsis form the principal part of the inhabitants. The other wing of this second school attempts to trace the origin of the devil's worshippers to a Persian source on the basis of certain resemblances between the two religions. Conspicuous among the representatives of this school is Professor A.V. Jackson of Columbia University. This distinguished scholar is considered an eminent authority on Iranian religions, and particularly an eyewitness authority on the Yazidi question. His views, therefore, not only deserve careful consideration, but they demand their full share in solving such an important problem as the one under discussion. I preferred his discussion of this theory to that of the others because he has expressed himself clearly and consistently and without rendering himself liable to misapprehension on the part of the reader. Briefly stated, Dr. Jackson's position is as follows. The Yezidis may actually show some surviving traces of old devil worship in Mazandaran, which Zoroaster anathemized so bitterly, and some old remnants of common Iranian faith. To verify this hypothesis, he proceeds to point out many instances. One example he cites is that the Yezidis are shocked if anyone spits upon the earth, because they interpret this as an insult to the devil. He traces this abhorrence to Zoroastrian prescription, forbidding the earth in any way to be defiled. The Dava Yasna, or Davas Yasnas, devil worshippers. Devil worship in Avesta. He goes on to say, may indirectly have had a kindred notion, not mentioning the name of Satan. Moreover, this American critic is informed that the Yezidis believe in a Father primeval that lived before Adam and did not fall into sin, and this information leads him to think that such a notion helps the Zoroastrian student to recognize at once a far-off reminiscence of Avestan, Gaia, Mashai, the Iranian Adam and Eve, and, as one may notice, is that there's more to it than that, because Dreyevauch spoke of his putting down of some of this group. So it can't be something that didn't occur for another century and a half. That doesn't make any sense. One noticeable thing in favor of the two schools is that their method is strictly scientific in the modern sense of the term. It is posteriori and not a priori. It is inductive, yet, however scientific their method may seem to be, their conclusions cannot be accepted as final. For the inductive method, according to the great French scientist Poincaré, cannot give us exact knowledge because its experiments do not cover all the instances given in a case. There can be only a partial verification. There will always remain some phenomena that cannot be brought within the sphere of a particular observation. Now this is exactly the case in the subject under consideration. Only in some phases does the Yezidi religion resemble that of the old Persians. There are other beliefs which do not come under this category, and which seem to bear traces of some other religions. What are we to do with these? The advocates of the theory in question admit that such is the case, but they assert that the resemblances of the Yezidi religion to Christianity and Islam are accidental. Just like people say, oh, well, the Hindu religion and stuff like that, and perhaps Buddhism not termed Hinduism, that some of these aspects are accidental, but they kind of come first in some places. So it's not exactly the same as Kurdish culture. So that owing to the residence of the Yezidis among al-Muslimin, the sect naturally has much in common with Islam. But what are the resemblances to Iranism? Not to be accounted for in the same way as those to other religions. Why may not equally strong influence be made from the likeness to Christianity? And what is the basis of such a discrimination? On these questions, we are left entirely in the dark. Now it is this lack of ground for their method of procedure that leads one to seek the solution of the problem on some other verifiable hypothesis. There is still another school among the Western Orientalists. I refer to those who maintain that the Yezidi sect was founded by Sheikh Adi. A modern writer holds this theory. After critically reviewing the views held by the different scholars, proceeds to advance his own idea to emphasize it and leave no room for further criticism. It claims that the theory has been generally accepted to quote, "It is generally agreed upon that the sect of the Yezidis was founded by Sheikh Adi. He is a historical personage, but it is exceedingly difficult and almost impossible to establish any historical facts out of the midst of very fantastic stories current about him." Well, perhaps Shaitan, Malik Ta'uz, called a prophet that would set up a faith connected unto him, or to preserve some semblance of the old faith, some connections to that more to the thousands, tens of thousands of years older peacock statues, use of lead, various other things that would be allowed to survive. He supports his notion by an appeal to an Arab author, Qasi Ahmed ibn Halik Khan, from whom, according to this, Chalik Khan, Khalik Khan, from whom, according to this writer, an extract relating to Sheikh Adi was published by one who for years was a resident of the city of Mosul. This statement that Ibn Khalik Khan gives the biography of Adi is a fact that cannot be questioned, but that Adi founded the Yezidi sect is a theory that is by no means generally agreed upon. Well, hypothesis maybe would be a better way to put it. Nor can it be substantiated. See, it's not a theory. To justify this position, let me quote in full what the Arab biographer and two other Muslim scholars have had to say on the problem. What Ibn Khalik Khan has to say on Sheikh Adi. The Sheikh Adi Ibn Musaffir al-Hakkari was an ascetic, celebrated for the holiness of life, and the founder of a religious order called after him, Al-Adawiyya. His reputation spread to distant countries, and the number of his followers increased to a great multitude. Their belief in his sanctity was so excessive that, in saying their prayers, they took him for their qibla and imagined that in the next life they would have in him their most precious treasure and their best support. Before this, he has as a disciple a great number of eminent sheikhs, and men remarkable for their holiness. He then retired from this world and fixed his residence among the mountains of Hakkari, near Mosul, where he built a cell or a monastery and gained the favor of the people in that country to a degree unexemplified in the history of the anchorites. It is said that the place of his birth was a village called Beit Far, situated in the province of Baalbek, and that house in which he was born is still visited as a place of sanctity. He died al-Hijra 557, which is 1162 of the Common Era. Or some say al-Hijra 555. And the town where he resided, in the Hakkari region, he was interred in the monastery he had erected. His tomb is much frequented, being considered by his followers one of the most sacred spots to which a pilgrimage can be made. His descendants continue to wear the same distinctive attire as he did and to walk in his footsteps. The confidence placed in their merits is equal to the formerly shown to their ancestor, and like him, they are treated with profound respect. Abu Barakat ibn al-Mustawfi notices that Sheikh Adi, in his history of Arbela, and places him in the list of those persons who visited the city. Muzaffar ad-Din, the sovereign of Arbela, said that when a boy, he saw the Sheikh Adi at Mosul. According to him, was a man of medium size and tawny complexion. He related many circumstances indicative of his great sanctity. The Sheikh died at the age of 39 years. Oh, at the age of 90 years. Okay. And one thing that we kind of know about the Sufis is they form sort of part one religion, part another religion groups. So a lot of Sufis have left Islam, but they want to keep a lot about Islam. So the Yezidi being mixed in with the Al-Adawiyya would have also made some sense as the origins. What Muhammad Amin al-Omari has to say on Sheikh Adi. They say that Sheikh Adi was one of the inhabitants of Baalbek, that he transported himself to Mosul, and from hence to Jabal Lash, a dependent of the city, Mosul, where he resided until his death. They also say that he was from Hawran, and that his lineage goes back as far as Marwan bin al-Hakam. Also that he is Sharaf ad-Din Abul Fadil Adi bin Musafir bin Ismail bin Musa bin Marwan bin al-Hassan bin Marwan bin Muhammad bin Marwan bin al-Hakam, who died in the year 558. His grave, which is well known, is the object of pious pilgrimages. God tried him by calamity, to wit, the appearance of a sect of apostates, called the Yezidis, because they claim to be descended from Yezid. They adore the sun and render worship to the devil. The following are some of the precepts of their faith. I found in a small tract made by one of the inhabitants of Aleppo, who knows their religion. Adultery becomes lawful when committed by consent. Mutual consent. They pretend that when the day of judgment comes, the Sheikh Adi will put them into a wooden basin, which he will put on his head, in order to cause them to enter into paradise, while uttering these contemptuous words, I do this by compelling God or in spite of him. Hence the idea that Shaitan is the true God. People say that. And the third here, the visit which they pay to the tomb of Sheikh Adi is for them a pilgrimage, which the devotees accomplished, no matter how far distant the country is that they inhabit, and without being concerned about the expenses that the journey carries with it. Now, archaeological trips and all that sort of stuff, okay, but Islam does not allow pilgrimages to graves. What Yasin al-Hatib al-Amari al-Mausili has to say on Sheikh Adi. In this year, 557, died the saint and the pious devotee Adi bin Musafir, performed miracles. His death took place in the city of Hakkariya, one of the dependencies of Mosul. His origin is from Baalbek, which he left in order to come to Mosul, that he might consecrate himself to God. He passed a solitary life on the mountains and in caravans, where lions and other wild beasts visited him often. It is said that he was descended from the family of Muawiyah, and that this lineage is what he attributes to himself. Adi bin Musafir bin Ismail bin Musa bin Marwan bin al-Hassan bin Marwan bin al-Hakam bin al-As bin Umayyah. He was versed in the knowledge of the divine law. God tried him by calamity, by raising the Yezidis, who pretended that the Sheikh is God, and who have made his tomb the object of their pilgrimage. They arrive there every year at the sound of drums in order to give themselves to games and debauchery. The Christians of the land, and especially the partisans of the Nestorians, are far from having the same opinion of the Sheikh Adi as al-Muslimin are the Yezidis. The following passage, which one reads in a Chaldean manuscript entitled Al-Arda, and which I saw some time ago in the church of the Carmelis, is proved sufficiently. This is the translation of the passage which I have extracted from a song composed by the Bishop of Arbil in honor of Rabban Hormuzd and other saints, in which the author makes mention of Adi in these terms. Great misfortunes have followed. Falling upon us, a formidable enemy came to torment us. He was a descendant of Hagar, the slave of our mother. This enemy, who made our life unfortunate, was a Muslim called Adi. He deceived us by vile tricks, and has finished by taking possession of our riches and of our convent, which he consecrated to things which are illicit, to have a strange worship. And an innumerable multitude of Muslimin have attached themselves to him, and have vowed to him a blind submission. The renown of his name, which is Sheikh Adi, has spread down to our days in all the cities of all the countries. These are the accounts which we have of Sheikh Adi in his relation to the Yezidis, and they deserve our special attention, for not only are the writers scholars of the highest authority, but they are to a certain extent eyewitness authorities of certain claims of tradition. The last two are from the city of Mosul, which is the only city in the Muslim world whose widely spreading scholarship has acquired for it the name of Dar al-Ulum, the home of the sciences. Moreover, they come from a family whose members are known as ulama, highly intellectual, broad-minded, al-Muslimin gentlemen. While at Mosul, I had the honor of calling often on Hassan Effendi al-Umari, and especially on Suleiman Effendi al-Umari. Ibn Chalkan is a trustworthy biographer, needs no further introduction than the mere mentioning of his name. What adds to his reputation as a scholar is the fact that being a resident of Arbila in the province of Mosul, had at his command first-hand information. Another noteworthy fact is that all three of these scholars agree in their account of Sheikh Adi and their tracing of his genealogy in describing him as the most perfect model for hermits and praising him for his manner of life, which they regarded as a life of holiness. They agree also in their definition of the common people's attitude towards the Sheikh, that he was deified and that his tomb has been made the object of pilgrimage. And finally, they are silent about his supposed founding of the sect in question. There is no intimation that he was a heretic, or that he established such a schism. To be sure, Ibn Chalkan makes mention of a religious order which was called after the Sheikh's name, but he designates them as Adawiya, not as Yezidis. This might have been such an order as the Brotherhood of As-Sanusi, called after Muhammad ibn Ali As-Sanusi, or as many other orders of dervishes and sheikhs of mystical tape have taken rise from time to time in the religious history of Islam. Well, some of them have already obviously left Islam. The two others speak of the appearance of the Yezidis, but they look at the incidents as a calamity to the Sheikh because they deified him and worshipped his tomb. Their remarks tend to show that the Yezidi sect was known as such before the time of Adi, and that the appellation was based on the pretension that they were descendants of Yezid, and they were apostates from Islam, and that they were some of those who were attached to Adi by reason of his wide reputation as a saint.